There was something you said earlier about Demetrious Johnson that I have to disagree with. Demetrious Johnson was a phenomenal fighter who did exactly what he was supposed to do. It was Dana White who did not back him at all. If you paid attention to what Dana White was doing at the time of Demetrious Johnson, who has the record for the most title defenses out of any professional MMA fighter, if you look at that carefully. Dana White never promoted him at all. He barely did anything for Demetrious Johnson. The only time Dana White does something is when he feels the fighter is something he wants, something that he likes, i.e. John Jones, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, George Masvidal. Like, he's only promoting people that he really sees that he likes, that he can benefit from. Anybody else, he don't care about.
Okay. First off, we're on the phone with, he wants to call himself Sabretooth. Okay, this is Kenny Vasquez. Kenny Vasquez, he's a Grappler's Quest world champion. He's selling himself a little short. ISK official. Very, very knowledgeable in the realm of BJJ. This kind of goes into what Errol was saying earlier in regards to marketing the fighters and such, and Demetrious having a hard time selling himself. And at the same time, I believe the big reason why that big trade went when they traded Askren, it sounds funny trading fighters, but when they traded Askren for Demetrious had gone through everybody. I personally, to kind of piggyback off Errol with the idea of guys selling out and taking a dive, that Henry Cejudo fight against Demetrious Johnson, I think that was a setup. Why? Because later on down the road, when he comes back, because Demetrious Johnson will come back from ONE FC. He's not going to stay there forever. Why?
Didn't he sign a 3 or 4 year deal with
he signed
ONE
a 3 or 4. I'm not sure if he signed an extension or if the existing deal from the UFC just got taken over.
No, I think he signed a deal. I think it was I'll look that up. But I'm pretty sure it was a 3 or 4 year deal he signed with, what was it, F1?
With ONE FC. Yeah. So, I mean, I do believe that you're going to see Mighty Mouse back in the UFC. Because I think with the talent pool that you have in the UFC and some of the struggles it may have with the talent pool right now, especially in that division, you're going to need somebody like Mighty Mouse to come back. And I'm sure the fans will all appreciate it, you know? So, Kenny, you still there, brother? Hello?
Kenny, you there, my friend?
Kenny?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
No, I'm just listening to what exactly Anthony says, and I do agree with what Anthony says. Because Demetrious Johnson ran through one fight right now. He just won the title. He destroyed everybody. The reason he got let go is because Dana White didn't like that Demetrious Johnson was standing up to him. Every time any champion defends a title, he gives them a new belt. Demetrious Johnson said himself, he hasn't done that. He said he only got him 2 belts, and he has 12 title defenses. Dana White did not like Demetrious Johnson. And believe it or not, a lot of the fans didn't even like that weight class because they're so small and so tiny. So it sucks for those guys because they're phenomenal fighters, phenomenal athletes, but it's also horrible because people don't like seeing tiny people. It's not exciting to them. They like seeing the more 155, 145, the 180 light heavyweights. No one really cares for even the heavyweights. So it's like there's that middle ground that everybody likes to watch.
631-965-4990. We have our special guest on the phone, Mr. Kenny Sabretooth. What's his last name?
Vasquez.
I'm very bad with names, so Kenny, I apologize if I'm all over. And I listen, I am not taking a shot at Demetrious Thomas because I met Demetrious Thomas at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. He's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. He absolutely let me interview him, so I have nothing against him as a fighter, as a champion. But over the last couple of years, and you can see it, there is nobody for him to fight in that weight class. There really was nobody for him to fight in that weight class. And I don't understand why Demetrious Thomas didn't move up at least 10 pounds over his weight class to move up and fight better fighters or more valuable fighters so he can make more money in his pockets. He didn't want to do it. And to me, when you look at Demetrious Thomas, if you want to make money, you're in the prime of your career. Who cares about your record? Your record means absolutely nothing. You're one of the best fighters in the world, and he was, to me, the best fighter in the UFC for almost 3 years. And then all of a sudden he decides, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm leaving the UFC because I'm not moving up in weight class. There is nobody else to fight. And by the way, didn't he back out of a fight against what's his name again? If I'm not mistaken, the guy that just got caught with steroids and he just got suspended from the UFC.
Which one?
Oh, no, I just forgot his name. I was just about to say it.
He just got suspended, and Dana White offered him a fight, and obviously he wanted to oblige Demetrious Thomas and fight him because he kept challenging people. Who wants to fight me next? I've ran through everybody, and this, I forget his name. He was a champion, USC wrestler. What is
he? He won the title. He defended it, and then he got busted for steroids.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe I forgot his name. But the problem with right now where the UFC is heading is these fighters don't want to fight the fighters that they should be fighting. It's all about record and rapport of what the fan wants them to wants to preach and stuff like that. And everybody wants to fight Conor. You know why everybody wants to fight Conor? Because Conor puts fannies in the seats and he puts money in people's pockets. That's why people want to fight Conor. The fact that the UFC would not let Nate Diaz fight Conor McGregor for a third time is a catastrophe. It really is. And Nate Diaz has been thrown around by the UFC for years, not being treated right for anything. So is Nick Diaz. And Nick Diaz is coming up with a fight too. He challenged Midval, whatever his name is. He challenged him Midvidal, and they're supposed to fight after this coming fight, after Usman. So I'll tell you this right now. Over the last couple of years, the UFC has been playing themselves. And I've said this over and over again. And I'm not taking a shot at the UFC or MMA. I'm taking a shot at the promotion behind the UFC. And Dana White has been going out on YouTube with Matt Serra, the great Matt Serra, going out there with Matt Serra looking for the next big superstar. After you had a show called The Next Ultimate Fighter that has not produced any good fighters that we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. And right now, the UFC is scratching and trying to find that next champion, that next big fighter, and they don't have that guy. They don't have the guy to put. That's why they're resting their whole organization on John Jones and Conor McGregor. And I think that's the problem right now where the UFC is lying.
What's sad about the Ultimate Fighter, that whole Ultimate Fighter model, and to kind of bring it back full circle back to Demetrious Johnson, they actually used the Ultimate Fighter TV show to gain a contender for a title fight with Demetrious Johnson. That's how sad it is when you are tired of just regurgitating the same matchups for Demetrious over and over and over again, to the point where you have to take a whole bunch of guys, throw them in a house, let them fight over each other. And these were all champions of other organizations that were outside of the UFC. And then I think it was actually Tim Elliott who actually ended up going against Demetrious Johnson, and unfortunately didn't end well with him, ended well for him either.
Right.
And like I said, I do believe and I hope that you're going to see Demetrious Johnson back in the UFC, because I don't think it's going to. I really don't think the ONE FC thing is going to last as long as people might think.
Kenny, I have a question for you.
Oh, by the way, the name we were thinking of is T.J. Dillashaw.
T.J. Dillashaw, T.J. Dillashaw was a guy that has stepped up to the plate, did step up to the plate to cut weight.
He wanted that fight.
And he wanted to fight Demetrious
Dana didn't want that fight.
Well, I don't think Dana didn't want the fight. Demetrious Thomas, I keep saying Thomas, Demetrious Thomas, I'm thinking about the football player. Demetrious Johnson didn't want that fight. And I think the reason why is the fact that the guy is bigger and he's cutting down to that weight, it would have been a problem for him.
But you want to know something? I don't think that he would have shied away from the fight. I think one of the things, and I'm pretty sure I remember him coming up with this, I don't feel like he felt that he was getting the money he deserved for being, at that time, and people could argue with me, I personally think at that time, he was pound for pound the best champion that they had.
No, absolutely.
Without a doubt. But he wasn't getting paid the Conor money. He wasn't getting paid the John Jones money.
Because they don't promote him right. And that's the UFC. I blame the UFC for that. The UFC does not promote him right, and they haven't promoted him right. And why should the guy, and I understand boxing, prize fighting, Mayweather makes his money because he promotes his own product, Mayweather Promotions, or whatever he calls it, TNT Promotions. You talk about Conor McGregor, Notorious Promotions. They're all promoting. Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy Promotions. They're all promoting. They're all trying to make a buck because that's where the money lies. And they know how to bring fannies in the seats. Why is it when you look at Dana White, he is only promoting the guys that are going to draw the people that they can draw off of their social media. They could draw off the people of what they say out in and outside of the ring. And when you have a fighter of this magnitude, maybe doesn't like to speak or like to take shots. He just wants to go in his own way and fight whoever he needs to fight to make a stand and make a point. I think Dana White needs to figure out how to promote those guys because I think not all these fighters are Conor McGregor or John Jones or any of these guys. It took a while for them to be who they are today. And Kenny, I want to ask you a question. Ferguson and Khabib coming up. You heard the press conference. I don't know if you heard the press conference.
Yep, I've been listening. Yeah, I did, and I heard some of your points and some things that Anthony said and your friend Eric did. Yeah, I was paying attention.
I think. What are your thoughts of this fight coming up? I do believe Khabib has been ducking Ferguson for the last couple of years, and I don't want to hear it from any of the fans out there saying, "Oh, Khabib, the big bad Khabib, he's never lost a fight." Khabib dehydrated 2 out of the last 3 fights that they were supposed to fight. They were set up, and the last fight they were supposed to fight, I think it was 2.5, 3 years ago. Khabib, the last week before the fight, he dropped out because of dehydration. So what are your thoughts of this fight coming up? Is Khabib-Ferguson actually going to happen?
I believe it's going to happen this time because Khabib has to prove a point. That's one thing. He beat Conor McGregor, who everybody thought was untouchable. But I said it years ago, even when I spoke to Anthony years ago, I always said that Conor McGregor is not as good as what everyone seems to be looking at. Mm-hmm. But the thing is with Ferguson, there's one thing I think myself from watching and listening, he's underestimating what Khabib is capable of doing. He really is. And he thinks because he was suspended for almost a year and he's been doing this, I really feel he's going to underestimate him somehow in an aspect that is going to make that one tiny mistake that he either will be knocked out or submitted. And that's my opinion. But Khabib also has to worry about how heavy-handed Ferguson is. Because when Ferguson hits you, you feel it. Even if you blocked it, it lets you know, holy shit. You know? So it'll be a good fight.
Ferguson is not the typical opponent that Khabib's gone with.
I agree. And I think he's going to be dangerous.
Usually and you've seen it in the past, even with the Conor fight, there's always that posturing where people are waiting for Khabib to make their move and then it's too late. I think with Ferguson, it's different because Ferguson has always been an attack-first guy. So this is going to be a little bit different. But unfortunately, Khabib is not going to see that until that first bell rings. And then that's when you're going to see the two of them just go at each other. That's why I honestly feel like this is going to be more of a wrestling match. And if somebody's going to get caught, they're going to get caught in a scramble. I don't think it's going to be as methodical as people think, where you're going to see one transition to another, and then you see triangles and arm bars. I think it's going to be a pretty... They're going to start swinging. Somebody's going to shoot, and then you're just going to see a crazy, crazy scramble. Not too much stuff play in the guard at all. You're going to see a lot of people just moving and moving and moving. So...
As you guys know, you can follow us by going to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com, and you can call us at 631-965-4990. Kenny, before we let you go, I know you were about to say something, so just finish up right there, my friend.
No, I was going to say I totally agree with what Anthony just said about this crazy scrambling. I don't feel that they want to go to the ground. I feel they just want to beat the living crap out of each other to prove who really is the better man when it comes to strength and tolerating the pain and damage that can be given. So I 100% agree with Anthony.